Hello everybody and welcome to Q&A number 2. In today's video I'm going to answer the questions from my VK group Языки, and here we go. The first question was asked by Tasbalat Асимкулов. Думаю, всем интересно было бы узнать о поддержании разговорного языка. Одно дело выучить, а другое не забыть. Ясен пень, что нужно практиковаться, но хотелось бы разборнее. Например, если ты не имеешь доступ к носителям или ты в другой стране, как поддерживать язык на беглом уровне? Yeah, and the question is how to maintain a language when you don't have access to native speakers or you in another country. Yeah, basically, from my experience, in order to maintain the languages, I mean, if you already speak the language, if you are fluent, even if you have like B1, B2 level, you don't necessarily need to speak anymore. You can just listen to the podcasts, or you can watch YouTube videos or watch some films, but you don't need to speak anymore, because even though your speaking abilities will decrease slightly, it's not that bad. I mean, at the end of the day, you will be able to, even if you just listen to it on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, you're gonna be able to talk this language. But if your goal is to practice your speaking, what you can do is to, I mean, two ways of doing it. The first way is to find native speakers online. You can go to the websites like italki.com, or you can download the app Hello Talk and write something like, hello, I want to learn your language, I can help you with my language, and let's Skype. And that's it. That's how you find native speakers. I know it's not that easy as I presented, but if you make some effort, you can actually find people and talk to them. And yeah, I did it several times, and right now I can tell you that due to my effort, now I have friends in different countries. So yeah, and I met them in person. So this is actually a great way to find new friends and to practice languages. But the other way, if you're like a sociopath, and you just struggle with finding native speakers, what you can do is that you grab a camera and record yourself. Or not necessarily a camera, you can use a microphone and a dictaphone and just record yourself speak. And you can talk about your day, you can describe things, you can share your ideas, just, yeah, think out loud. And once you've done it, you review it, you listen to the audio or watch the video and correct yourself. And whenever you feel like, oh, I might say it better, or you didn't know how to say it, for example, you record yourself, you don't know how to say something, you say it in Russian, and after that, whenever you review it, you translate this word, or you work on your grammar based on your result, based on what you recorded. And this is very helpful. I've been doing it with English for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and they gave me so. I mean, I can give feedback to myself. I can record the video and I can watch and see my weak points, and yeah, I'm so happy that I started doing it. And part of the reason, as I already said in the previous episode, is of doing these videos is actually to work on my English, because I mean, you're Russian. I suppose many of you guys who are watching these videos are Russian, but still, for me, it would be more interesting and more fun to actually do the videos in English for the moment, since I'm working on it. Yeah, basically, record yourself, listen to the podcast, review, and this way you're gonna practice. Question was asked by Masha Юркова. Расскажи, пожалуйста, про language daily routine. С чего ты начинаешь, когда учишь язык? Придерживаешься ли ты какого-нибудь расписания? Сколько времени у тебя уходит на то, чтобы учить язык в день? И как, правда, 7 языков держать в голове и не забыть их? This is a very interesting question. And yeah, let's start with the first part of your question. С чего ты начинаешь, когда учишь язык? So, and yeah, basically, what was said in Russian, and I'm going to translate it in English, is that what is your language daily routine? Uh, how do you start learning a language? Do you follow a plan or a schedule? How many time do you like? How many time you spend learning a language a day? And how do you maintain seven languages and how don't you forget them? Okay, so how do I start learning a language? Basically, the very first thing that I do is that I learn how to read, because mostly I learn the new words because, of course, I listen a lot. But if you don't understand anything, you won't progress. You won't. You're not gonna learn new words. And reading is so important for me because this is the way I learn new words. This is the way for example, I have a text and I just translate it word by word. It doesn't really matter for me if it's so hard, if it's like C1 level and I just started from scratch. I mean, it might be a little bit demotivating at the beginning, but still, I find this method so effective because if I like the text, I'm really curious to know what the information is inside of it, and I'm motivated to translate word by word. So for me, it's very important to know how to read, and I always, whenever I start, I try to find content that contains both audio and text, so that I can read, correct myself, like listen to it, and to see whether I pronounce it correctly or not. So yeah, this is the first thing. I learned how to read, and I learned the sounds, the pronunciation from the very beginning, so that I won't struggle fixing it afterwards. The next thing is that I learned a little bit about grammar, so that I could like see the difference between nouns and verbs and some different parts of speech. Learn a little bit about tenses and stuff like that, but I don't go into too much detail. I just yeah, just some basic knowledge. And the third thing that I do is that I read and translate a lot. I translate so many things. Yeah, because you have to, in order to understand a language, you have to know a lot of words. And yeah, and finally, well, not finally, but this is basically not your question, because your question was how do I start. So basically, I start with reading, with some basic grammar, and translating. Three main steps. Um, Next, do I have a schedule? I don't have any particular schedule because it is so chaotic. I mean, I whenever I learn a new language, I try to dedicate at least 10 minutes or 30 minutes a day. Um, with hard languages like Thai, it's almost never more than 30 minutes because it's too hard and overwhelming. But whenever I have like a motivation boost, I can learn for an hour or even longer. But still, it's like yeah, mostly in the morning I do my 10 or 20 minutes. Ideally, like right now I'm a little bit lazy and I do it like, and I am procrastinating a lot, so I do it like, I don't know, at night. But ideally, I do it in the morning, and that's that's how it goes with a new language. When it comes to the languages I already speak, it's so I mean, it's so different every day because well, I teach languages, so I get to practice them while teaching. I teach English, French, and Spanish. So these languages I do like almost every day, or at least weekly. And yeah, whenever I want to listen to something, I do it. I have my favorite podcasts in different languages, in German, in Italian, in English, and yeah, I just listen to it. And sometimes I get to practice with my friends from different countries. Um, how many? Yeah, and basically your whole question I can answer like this: learning and practicing languages is my lifestyle. It really is because I teach languages. So three languages that I just mentioned, these languages I don't have any problem with practicing, with maintaining with, because yeah, whenever you teach, you remember, you like record yourself for of something you could otherwise have just forgotten, you know. But with languages like Italian, as I just said, I listen to the podcast, I talk to my friend, and Portuguese, I don't really get too much practice of Portuguese because, yeah, it's just not very useful language, to be honest. But still, um, whenever, you know what happens, whenever you get to improve, whenever you work on your Spanish or Italian or French, your Portuguese is actually improving as well because it's so similar that and it has so many similar words that whenever you learn a new word in Italian, for example, or in Spanish, you can say that you learned a new word like in Portuguese as well. So I don't really have a problem with my Portuguese, and yeah, I from time sometimes I get to travel and I practice languages on traveling. And how many time I spend learning languages? The whole day. The whole day I can uh, listen to something, talk to someone, you know, read something, and yeah, record a video. So it is actually happens very often. So yeah, this is my answer to your question. And the final question for today was asked by Tina Dumilina. Расскажи, как ты находишь своих учеников и каких правил придерживаешься в работе с ними. Tell us how do you find your students and what rules do you follow working with them. So there are different ways I find my students. The first way, and yeah, basically the first and my main source of students is my VK group. I have my services there, so anyone can go to my VK group and read about my courses. And mainly, I suppose they just go to it, they read about it, and they contact me. So that's how I just find new students. But when I didn't have any platform, I actually used avito.com or avito.ru. Yeah, and I wrote about my services there, but it was like a couple of times. Um, Also, apart from that, because you don't always can influence in like on the group, you can write a post, but you're not gonna do it every month. I mean, I personally I don't like spamming, like, oh guys, I wanna find a student, so contact me and do it over and over again. I just hate the publicity, so I don't do it. So there's another way I can find students. There is a website called youdo.com when you can, it's basically a freelancer website, and there are different tasks, and you can go to like search and search for the tasks for people who need to learn a language, and you can propose them your services. So this is the second way, and the third way, I suppose, this is a word of mouth. So yeah, сарафанное радио. So basically, when my students, for example, advise their friends or their family to contact me, and this way we start to work together. And finally, Instagram. lately I've had some I've had some new students from my Instagram account. So yeah, that's basically my strategy. Is very simple. I I don't really like advertising a lot. That I I want to find new students. I want to find new students. I try to be well. I try to be active on my social media and to present some kind of authority. Authority that I'm able to teach them. That I for example, I part of the reason what I'm doing these videos is so that people can tell whether or not they want to learn English with me, because yeah, so I am not perfect in English, but still I am able to teach beginners, and yeah, this is the way I find new students. And I do videos in French and in Spanish and other languages, so that people will know how well I speak these languages. So that basically certificates doesn't. Uh, Me personally, I would learn a language with a person who speaks a language well, and not with a person who I don't know how he or she speaks, but has a lot of certificates. So for me, more important is to have like a presentation of myself, rather than like, oh, I have this certificate, and don't not even able to speak a language. So yeah, and this is the first answer to the first part of your question. And the second part, what rules do I follow working with my students? Very simple. I don't really like. Well, I like flexibility, but when it comes to like, oh, let's put off this lesson in an hour, in another day. And when it gets like often, I don't really like it. So I usually like to have a lesson at the same day at the same time. So this is the first rule, consistency. And the second rule would be, I don't really like making people do something and m- telling them what to do. So like, you gotta do this. You gotta read this text. You have to like yeah tell me about something. And I don't really like this approach. I'm more like present different ways of doing. Like for example, you gotta repeat everything. Of course, you gotta repeat everything. You gotta listen a lot, but I don't make them do something. Yeah, you have different options, for example, and I say, oh, you can do this or you can do that, or the most important thing is to practice, and the most important thing is to repeat the lesson, because I know that me personally, I never do homework. Whenever I study a language with someone, I just, not that I don't, not that it's too hard, or just that I don't want it. It's just that we have other things to do, and I don't want to make people do something. And the third would be yeah, to never interrupt people whenever they speak. I hate when like I get to talk to someone in a foreign language and they interrupt me whenever I say something wrong. So I don't do it. And normally, I just, whenever we speak, we I write something down, and then send it on Skype. Yeah, and basically we learn a language through authentic content. So it is some text, audio. We talk a lot, so mostly we talk. For example, we can read something and then we discuss it, and we learn the grammar through the authentic content. Um, yeah, so basically, this is how I work with my students, and I enjoy it. I really enjoy it. It's not boring. I hope. I hope it's not boring. I try to make them speak. I try to. We work a lot on pronunciation as well, because I think it's important, and I just love working on pronunciation. So yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for asking me your questions, and feel free to I know that there are like questions for the next at least 2 videos, but still, if you want to go into details, or if you have something else to ask me, write it down below, and see you in the next video. Bye.